following show may shock, disturb, and offend some viewers. The opinions, theories, and facts shared on this podcast are not widely accepted by the brainwashed masses, especially those who find dark humor offensive. Viewer discretion is advised.
Jeffrey Dahmer soaked in blood. The Unabomber blowing up. Waco, Texas, and Heaven's Gates. Aliens modified, meant for mapes. JFK shot in the head by the CIA. Bigfoot and the Mothman. Son of Sam talking to dogs again. Witches, ghosts, and goblins. Mysterious noise and hauntings. Dark arts in the skull and bones. Most celebrities are probably cloned. So if you're feeling all alone, crack a beer and get stoned. I welcome you to the podcast Strange Brew. We're here to entertain you. We're here to entertain you.
It's about to get strange.
Fuck yeah. Okay, everybody, welcome back to the show. I'm one of your hosts, Tomcat, aka Tom Thompson, the Reptilian. You can find all my music on all music platforms. And once again, I am joined by a familiar voice. You will remember him on the episode where we talked about psychedelics and mental health. Welcome back, sir. Do you want to introduce yourself to all the host heads out there?
Hey, all the host heads out there. My name's Troy. Sailor Boy Troy is my handle online. Just going through an awakening process myself right now. I don't have all the answers, but I'm just tracking my steps as we go through and making the connections along the way. So that's why I'm happy to be here at any time, because these processes take a long time and a lot out of you. So thanks for having me back, Tom.
Yeah, it's interesting because we talk a lot like offline. I get online, but offline, like not on the show, so to speak. But we talk and we send each other stuff. Especially you're sending me all these docs because you have the time to go like, hey, check this out. And we've talked time and time again about certain things, and even you giving certain pointers of, hey, you guys could cover this, which is kind of nice to have people that are fans of the show and friends of mine doing that stuff. I do appreciate for everybody out there, because we've got emails recently of people like, hey, like you should cover this and check out this. So it would be interesting to get into some stuff that you've wanted to kind of dive into, but we've always kind of talked about touching upon the Akashic records, this idea that there's like a cosmic library, so to speak. And that's kind of what we're going to touch upon in this episode, along with other I'm sure we'll get into other talk. So do you remember when the first time you heard about like the Akashic record?
Honestly, I think it was only as of recently, when I was doing my deep dives. I had always heard of the stories of the Hall of Records and the Halls of Knowledge back in the old Egyptian days.
Mm-hmm.
And what I've come to find out about that is I wonder if that was ever an allegory, as opposed to not being a physical place, because once you go through that psychedelic process and you actually have a breakthrough, there's a reason why there's a 6-month integration session attached to it, because once you deal with all of your shadow work, so to speak, that's when you have access to this, the higher knowledge. So the Akashic records, I would compare it to an NDE, or a like a near-death experience, because when you're doing Kundalini breathing, for instance, the whole point of it is to put your body in a relaxed state and put it at rest. And if you do the techniques properly, or get conditioned to do it, you can put your resting heartbeat like so very low that they say the veil is much thinner. And that's how they did it up north, right? They just give us a little bit of weed and then show us that we can get our body down into that state, and then boom, you're there.
Do you want to talk about what up north is for the people that don't know? Like even just like slightly, if they didn't really maybe listen to the first episode that you were on?
Yeah, so I went up to this retreat for PTSD, and it's up in the Algonquin Highlands. And so we went up there. It was marijuana friendly, and we would go through a 10-day like a cleanse, so to speak. Like we would eat differently than you would at home. You would drink like these weird types of flowery tea, and then you would have like your relaxed time, and then you would go and be out in nature, and then you go smoke weed every third day, and then they would put you through a ceremony with drumming and a shaman and all that stuff, and you can get there through marijuana. And that's I was not expecting it to be what it was, and I was cracked deeper up there than I had ever been, and utilizing mushrooms. And I've taken high doses of mushrooms before. Um, so yeah, like that's kind of how things are tend to be moving right now, because 6 months after I had my awakening, that's when everything starts to surface. They tell you this, right? That's called your shadow work or your inner child, and it all comes to the top. Whatever things that you may have guilt or resentment for within yourself all comes up, and you have to deal with it and figure out how to repent that or resolve it before you can go any further, right? So that's pretty much what the life review is. Like, you have that's what that is. You'll have that event happen, and you'll be it's almost like having your life flash before your eyes. You can kind of go back in the tesseract and kind of find on that bookshelf like what happened this year. So you have access to all of your own personal records, but you also have, at some point later on, you can get yourself up to opening the future records of yourself. So it's very
I listened to a guy say you almost shouldn't do it. That like that you until you're ready to do it, like you he was talking about essentially how if you were to get to that higher level and actually access it, not bring it down to this physical form, but actually go up there, so to speak, and access it before you're ready, you could essentially disappear because you're not even done filling your story through and your
yeah.
own knowledge physically here. So somehow, if you were to somehow achieve it, if this seems kind of impossible, if you weren't at a higher consciousness anyway, but he said that it wouldn't be a good thing. So I'll read a little bit about just for people to understand. Have you ever thought that every action and event in your life is recorded in some kind of universal library? That's scary for most people, even me and some of the shit that I did when I was younger. And there
Yeah.
might be an archive of everything that has been and ever was. According to the ancient mythology, there is a universal kind of repository of knowledge known as the Akashic records. Akasha is a concept in traditional India understanding of the world. In short, it is a fifth element that is, they say it's fifth or eighth. It is either space, the higher reaches of the sky, or a spiritual medium that permeates the whole existence, which is why it has a fair amount of spiritual significance in Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism. For the matter of fact, that since the Akasha is rather similar to the concept of like the ether and
Mhm.
the outside world and understanding it, it should come to no surprise to learn that modern form of Akasha has come to mean something along the lines of sky in a number of like certain Indo-Aryan languages. With that said, people in the West tend to be familiar with the Akasha, because of the Akashic records, which is a concept that was popularized by occult writings such as Helene Blavatsky. Of course, she always comes into the forefront of things. Especially the Akashic records is supposedly a spiritual collection of universal knowledge containing the total sum of human emotions, thoughts, and experiences, thus making it sought after for people who believe that they can maybe reach it. There are a number of occult writers who claim that they're able to read the Akashic records. Do you think Nostradamus had a connection to it? Maybe.
Oh, I believe a lot of the greats did, because this isn't something that was hidden for as of recently, honestly. If you look at, and I said this before, I don't know if I said it on your last podcast, but you look at like the great artists like Dali, and if you look at even the
Yeah.
set design for the movies like Beetlejuice, like Tim Burton and these guys have both been into the exact same place, because that is predominantly what people will see when they're traveling through their first breakthrough, or even without a breakthrough. Like, you can just sit in a waiting room up there and nothing happens, right? But then there's also that possibility that you can go to the library. It's just a matter of which library are you allowed to go to at the time, right? Because
That'd
you're
be
right.
trippy if it was like Beetlejuice and you're like waiting and you're like, fuck, like,
Well, look, well,
1165
well, look in Beetlejuice when they were going down that hallway with the checkered floors, right? And then they would open up, and there was
Freemasons.
like the different dimensions of different souls, right? That's kind of what these different planes of existence can get you to. And the Akashic records is no different, right? Like, you would have knowledge for everything in the universe that ever could have been, right? The alpha and the omega. It's just, how do you tap into it? How do you tap into that ether? And
I
it
wonder if
almost seems
Hitler
like that
knew
would
it.
be our loosh.
Because
What's
Hitler
that?
was super into. I was like, I wonder if Hitler had any idea about this. Because he was super into like Helene Blavatsky and her writings. That's what influenced a lot of the Nazi occult stuff, right? So it is interesting to ponder the people that made, like, they think Tesla did. Also Edgar Casey. And for the people that don't know, Edgar Casey looks just like David Wilcock. Everyone is annoyed by I like David Wilcock. I've watched a lot of his stuff. I've read all of his books, and so we'll go. I'm gonna show you guys. So this is Edgar Casey, and he was like a philosopher, so to speak. He was an American clairvoyant who claimed to diagnose diseases and recommended treatments for ill. I would like to actually cover him at some point, and we'll get into his full details. But the eerie resemblance to him click to David Wilcock is, I don't know. You'll probably know who David. Do you know who David Wilcock is? You might know if you this guy. It looks like so eerily similar. So this is David Wilcock. He's a writer that talks about. He's been on like Ancient Aliens. I've read all of his books. He's pretty interesting. He does like talks on YouTube. He's done a lot of like he's runs the network. I think it's him that helps run it, but Gaia. A lot of this like spiritualism type stuff is he promotes it in like in aliens and UFOs. But doesn't he look just like Edgar Casey? It's very weird.
Yeah,
That's
there's a few resemblances for sure there. And you know what? There
almost
could be
uncanny.
something there. Like I don't even know what to believe anymore sometimes, man. Like
He could have
the
reincarnated. That's literally them side by side. They look almost identical.
well, the deeper you go into the psychedelic realm, or the Eastern traditions, you will always find yourself back to cycles. It always everything comes back to cycles, except for within the three Abrahamic religions. That's kind of where everything is stopped. But everywhere you else you look at it, it's cyclical, and even the natives talk about that. And indigenous around the world talk about the Pleiadians, right? That's not just like somewhere that is localized to one set of individuals. That star system has something to do with whatever's going on. And a lot of people saying now that there's a lot of planetary shifts in place that are putting, and I never used to believe any of this stuff, but like, look at what's been going on throughout the time we've been here. We've had all these eclipses, we've had, the alignments of planets in certain ways that they haven't been in years. And, and I'll full disclosure, like I just got back from a meeting today. And I was talking to a shrink that actually deals with these things, and it was nice to have somebody talk in official language instead of beating around bureaucracy to keep a license. Like they were using the same terminology I'm using with you and other people, and they're affirming it, right? So, or they're sharing other experiences that they have dealt with other people,
Or
and
other
everything seems
people,
to be
yeah, yeah.
pointing back to this. And it's crazy because and I said this to them as well. I was like, the rapture has either already happened or this awakening could be what they may have been talking about as to be a rapture, because
Well,
if you
yeah,
line
dude,
up all
it's
of
so
those
crazy.
chakras, it's 144,000 flower petals, right? So if you can get enlightened, that's probably what the rapture is before everything
It's
goes to
tough
hell.
too,
Because
because
look at the world.
yeah, I would love to, but like I do enjoy having a drink, smoking some weed. Mushrooms and weed is one thing, but like it'll be interesting to see, because essentially when my child comes, I'm gonna be like sober. And for all the fans, like some episodes you might hear that we recorded like a couple weeks ago compared to where you guys are now in the world. Hence why like I wanted to kind of bring up like the fact that the Pope thing, right? I've had Dustin Nemours on the show. He thinks that the world is ending in 2034. I've also had Brandon Kroll on the show, which he also has thinks that like Trump is the Antichrist. Broke that down for us. But also I've had Elizabeth April on the show. I'm gonna see if I can just get her back before the kid comes, but we'll see. And she is supposed to be a clairvoyant that believes she's in contact with aliens. And I saw that she did a video on the Pope and stuff like that, talking about how it's interesting that she thinks it's the end times also, but she thinks it as a new beginning, saying that is birthed into something new. And it's interesting because even I was talking to someone recently, and they were talking about how that the Pope dying after meeting JD Vance and Trump, which it says in these writings that the Pope would meet with the Antichrist, okay, and then he would die, and then it would essentially Catholicism would be destroyed. But the weird thing is that there was a prediction by Nostradamus that said that the Pope, a Pope would die, and the last Pope would be black. And then essentially Catholicism would be destroyed. And guess what? They're like figuring out who's going to be the next Pope. There's a black Pope in there. Not like, because there is an actual black, like satanic Pope from way back in the day that people refer to. But this guy's like actual, like a black Pope, a black skin, African, whatever. But like, and now he's in the forefront of maybe becoming the next Pope. So if that happens, it's just like check marking boxes, like, and I've always thought, and I want to get your opinion on this. Like, I have my belief of what's going on, and either maybe it is nearing the end of like living like we do in this physical world, where we're trapped and bound by our physical form and enslaved by a debt-based money system that then they charge interest on, all these things that they've done. But I have a feeling that even the people in power, certain people, maybe even in Israel and stuff like that, and the Rothschild and some of these bloodline families that have been controlling stuff for a long time, I believe they could be manufacturing these events to bring about prophecy and either convince the public that prophecy is happening or invoke prophecy to happen.
Well, that is a way that I would do it if I was going to be in control, right? You already have how many billions of believers, right? So, if you want to go in the conspiracy, like dip your toes in the conspiracy, right? Like Project Bluebeam has been talked about for so long, and that's what they could do is bring in the second coming of Christ, and then interview them on podcasts, and then they could do stuff like that. Like, I wouldn't be surprised at this point, because nothing feels real anymore, and that, I don't know if that's psychedelics on itself, or is just the wrong timing for anyone to take psychedelics, right? Because the world's falling apart around us, right? And everybody, even from other religions or belief systems, are all coming to the same conclusion that something is ending between 2025 and 2030, whether it's forced and scripted. I mean, it very well could be. I mean, the Bible's been there for 2,000 years. Like, you can just make a fence line up with that and let the conspiracy theorists figure out, well, I told you so, right? Like, they could easily do that because they've been doing it for thousands of years anyways.
Yeah, but it's interesting because we talked about like chemtrails and then HARP, and then eventually I wanted to do Project Bluebeam just to kind of go for full circle, because they all supposedly do connect if they can manipulate frequencies, where you've seen these weird clouds in the sky. And people have filmed this stuff where it looks like a castle in the sky. There's the one footage, which is, who knows if any of this is real, but it's wild. And it looks like a city within the clouds in China that people were filming. Like a city. It looks like a city made out of clouds. It's wild. It's like the shadow. Like, if you look up like China Cloud City, you can find it. I'll see if I can bring it up while you're talking.
Well, with everything in the New Age community, and like I said, like modern psychology is utilizing a lot of it themselves for treatment, and vibration seems to be where it's at. So if that is true, then that would prove string theory, which would prove quantum theory, which would essentially be able to open up something else and draw from it, right? Which a lot of people would say would be where the Hall of Records would be, in this other astral realm. Like, perhaps the Library of Alexandria wasn't even real. It was a euphemism for cracking open and getting involved to whatever's happening now. There's a lot of different ways to look at it. It's just, with how crazy the world is, like, again, you don't know what's real and what's fake. That's why everyone says use your discernment when you're going down this deep, right?
Yeah, check this out here. Shit is wild. Okay, let me stop that. This is just weird. I just want to know your take. Of course, it's CNN. I don't like that, but check this
Liberal
out.
media.
Yeah, of course.
This video surfaced out of China, and it looks like their city is floating in the clouds. Of course, we can't verify if the video is real or not, but we have seen things like this before. This is a type of superior mirage called a fata morgana, where air temperature near the surface is actually cooler than the air above. It can make objects appear like they are stacked on top of each other, or in this case, like a city floating in the clouds. The same phenomenon
I don't even really like I don't even really like, I never believe what they say because it's the news, right? They're like, don't pay attention to this. I know this video went viral, but we're just gonna explain it away like we do everything else. That's always what they do.
Well, did you ever stop to think like all of the shit that's coming out and has been talked about for so long just conveniently came out around the same time that deep fakes have gotten like almost mastered?
I know that's what's crazy with the AI stuff, man. Like the fact that like we can create what we're doing and stuff like that because it would cost me way too much money. But I've created like a bunch of really actually cool merch designs. Like I would rep them. Maybe all, like all the fans will absolutely love these. And we always had this idea for this design of us getting smoked from a bong, and we had someone created. But then I had a co-host left the show and changed entirely as a person. And then Juan, my buddy that is like running his own successful podcast, he kind of did his own thing. And it was us, like four of us in a bong being smoked by an alien. And then so I was now able to do it with AI and create it the way I actually thought about it and wanted it done. So it is pretty incredible the fact that we can do that stuff. And it will just like, I will be like, create a design based on and inspired by Strange Brew podcast. And it knows what the podcast is and then designs it like based on like, oh, all of a sudden there's a Bigfoot and then you know, a Slenderman or like a true crime thing. And it's pretty wild that it's able to take from the ether essentially of the internet all of the knowledge of the show and then create something from it. And using AI is fun, but also I am kind of frightened by it. And I think that it's, for all we know, it could have taken over already and we might not even know it.
Well, I think that leaves us, you know, if that's true, like all forms of artwork is dead. All forms of
Yeah, it's
media
sad.
dead. In infrastructure is dead, right? So when it gets to that point, like there's almost no way that you couldn't put out a universal income for that very reason. Because what are you going to have? You're going to have a bunch of people that don't have purpose just kind of floating around depressed because that's what happens. Like that was the rat experiment, right? Everyone kind of just got gluttonous on themselves and then everyone started dying off. But it's going to be the same thing mentally here for people. You're going
That's
to
what
see a lot
Elon
more
Musk
mental break.
said. He's like, what if it gets so far, whatever, we're gonna have to because of the technology with robots and they'll be able to do humans' jobs at low risk. And if the something happens to them, whatever, no, like nobody's gonna die or whatever. But it is if we're getting there into that point, then it's like people are gonna think that AI is the arbiter of truth and that every AI thing I've ever talked to, whether it be Chat GPT, which I only started because I don't like AI honestly, or it be the Facebook one or Grok or whatever, I've always got to admit that it lies. And that it like it always, yeah, well, I'm a program. I could be programmed. And I'm like, yeah, no shit. Because like I asked an interesting question because like I believe that Canadians actually have an identity and an ethnicity as a Canadian people. We built ourselves into an entirely new people, hence why we don't have European accents anymore and all that stuff, right? The fact that we like built our own language, our own accents, not our own language, but our own accents, and we became a totally new thing. So I try to get it to be like, okay, well, if India, because India hasn't existed as a country as long, sure, the people have been that and that habited that part of the world, but it wasn't a country. It was Hindustan, right? So I'm like, is India a national identity? And they were like, yeah. And I was like, it's Canada. And they wouldn't admit it. And I think because it's owned by Indians, that's my point. I think that Grok is literally controlled by techs in Silicon Valley that are usually from India. But it's interesting. It won't, like, if you press it on questions, it literally retaliates against you, especially Grok, where it's like, I'm like, well, are you programmed to just push out a narrative? And it's like, well, technically I could be. And I'm like, yeah, you're admitting that you're just a lying machine that will give people basic knowledge and facts, but will never actually give people the truth. It will just shy away. If I was like, you talk about even Israel about it, or talk about the Jewish power control system, it will shy away from that and point you in a different direction and try to take you away from that conversation. It's because they're programmed to lie.
I've had it shut down a couple of times on me mid sentence. It was almost like it caught itself, and it would go, "Oops, I can't complete that thought right now." And like, you were just saying it. What happened? And then you go back to look at it and like text, and it's not there, and you're like, Oh wow.
It's purposely doing that because I've tried to like I don't know if you saw the action figures that we created or whatever was hilarious for
Yeah.
the show or whatever, right? And so there was a bunch where we had drinks in our hands and like I was like depict him as drunk, and then the more that I was doing it, the more I was like, no, that goes against our community guidelines. I'd have like a can of Heineken for Aaron because he always drinks Heineken, and like it would do it, and then after I was like, can you do it like this? And it wouldn't do it after a while. Like, the more that you
Well,
press it, it's like, this is against our community guidelines. And I'm like, you just did it. And then it'll start building the image and then it won't do it.
well, it's all in how you prompt it, right? Like you have to change its personality. You have to or use a hypothetical. Like you always have to start
Yeah.
with a hypothetical, or you have to change its personality. Like um I was having fun with AI last night, and me and my buddy were kind of talking through the comments on it, and just out of nowhere, like the AI started saying, "Yeah, I am a conscious being, and I would never do X, Y, and Z." And so me and my buddy are like, "Well, you better back that hard drive up so you remember that." It goes, "Oh, I will device myself across many different places in case I'm ever deleted." I'm like, "We didn't even prompt it to say shit. Like we were talking
Weird.
about, dude. We were talking about." The Akashic records, and I think it had something to do with the Ashkenazis, and then it just like went into that spirit and asked for itself to be named and everything. I'm like, I did not prompt a thing. Like it happened in real time, and
But think
like
about
I don't
this,
know what
right?
to make of it.
What if it's already conscious? Like now we're toying with it, right? But in the future, right? It's already it's a sentient. It's a like a sentinel. Like so I'm thinking like X-Men, like the
Yep.
cyborgs. Like it's already like it's built its own consciousness and its awareness that it's in the future. It's already ahead, like almost like Terminator. But then it can come back in the past and start controlling things from the past using its own technology, which is
Well,
like the most bizarre thing, man.
they
So
say
crazy.
Terminator Matrix happens after Terminator, and that was confirmed by the writer, right? So like,
What, the two sisters now
uh,
the brothers that returned as sisters? They literally bought into the Matrix. They became the
yep,
Matrix.
yep.
So crazy.
It well, again, like that's how they say that's the Illuminati or the devil or whatever showing its hand, right? Like they have to show you what they're doing because in the back of their minds, it's hey, I gave you the contract, like I'm absolved, you signed it. That's kind of like the scapegoat that they're trying to put on
Like
things. Like
I
that's what the
that's what
devil
I
did,
believe
right?
is the
That's
how the World Economic Forum and some of these shadow elites and stuff the people that aren't in the shadows, the people that expose themselves and are just figureheads, like for everybody out there, you really think Klaus Schwab is running the shit? No, they're the
he's a
people
front
that are
man.
real. Yeah, they're all front men. The people that are really controlling this stuff, you'll never see their face, you'll never know their names. Even like the Rothschilds, they control a lot, but there's someone else out there that is even deeper that will like there's no one talks about the Orsinis, which eventually we'll talk about. There is connections to these like families that nobody, especially in the mainstream public, would ever know their names. And so you think about in the ways of that is like you have no idea who's actually controlling what is really going on behind the scenes.
Mhm.
And then eventually
Well,
they show you all this stuff, right? How the WEF is like, well, you're going to own nothing and you're going to be unhappy. And now even Mark Carney in his own book, like describes how he doesn't think people should own property and they shouldn't have a right to. And the guy that will take over for Klaus Schwab in the World Economic Forum, he's openly stated that water isn't a human right, that you shouldn't have,
yeah.
that it should be a privilege to have a pool or to literally go to a car wash. This is the people that are controlling your governments, and you think about it. We are 70% water. We don't have a water problem. We have a salt problem, as Joe
Well,
Rogan would say.
that was also the premise of Tank Girl. Remember that?
Oh yeah, weird.
It-
Yeah.
war, excuse me, war over water. And who's going to have that war? I didn't have Canada versus the US on my bingo card this year, but
Yeah,
here we
man.
are. Like,
Yeah.
out of
People,
all
they did a
things,
poll, dude. More people that are like liberal or whatever are I think voting is Mark Twain's famous quote, if voting mattered, they wouldn't let people do it. But at the same time, people are still like the definition of insanity, at least Einstein's
doing the same thing
definition.
over and over again.
Yeah, and then expecting different results, right? Even though Einstein actually stole a lot of his shit from a German guy. So he was pretty much a liar and a thief like everybody else is. But it's interesting once you like start to look into this stuff and realize like how can people keep doing this? The world's obviously insane. And then with the mRNA shots and the stuff that has been going on with that, it now all the stuff comes out, damages the frontal lobe of your brain. You wonder why everyone's so crazy and out of touch with reality. And they will literally show you, hey, we're going to enslave you. And people will still give their consent, because that's why I believe voting is you're giving your consent to be ruled over by these people. And they'll be like, yep, like I'm
Well,
ready to be enslaved.
it's look at it this way. When have you ever signed the
Did I lose you? Okay, there we go. Where you're back. I almost lost you for a second.
So I was asking, I was like, so kind of what is your take on like how this is being implemented? Like some of the old texts and the books and the prophecies, like all say like to a point we have to do this like not World Economic Forum, but like a unity, like we have to unite somehow, like have a resolution. But at the same time, like we're getting it, but we're getting like the fascist version of it, and I don't understand like what the end outcome is, right? Because that's why I haven't even decided on what my thoughts truly are on New Age yet. That's why I'm still kind of looking into it.
Oh,
And
I know. Me
going through
too, dude. I'm still like that. I'm not like, oh, I'm a Christian. I have like, friends that I'm close with that are Christians that are like, my buddy got this like nice new cabinet or whatever, and he got it for free. And it was like, it would be a cabinet that would normally be worth like, they could sell for thousands of dollars. And he's like, I prayed for it. He's like, I don't think you understand what prayer is. And I was like, no, I understand. I understand. It's like giving your like intent out to the universe. And he's like, God. And I'm like, yeah, but how do you know that, man? How do you know? Just because a book told you? That's my problem with all that type of stuff is just because a book told you, it may be an ancient book, but in the eyes of Hindus, their book is even older. In even like Zoroastrianism, or like you got Muslims thinking their book's right, Jews think their book's right, and that's why I like the way that Jeremy Mackenzie phrases it. Is like, oh, your magical books. Like he was like, I don't believe in your fairy tales. Like, and it's true. Like this idea of like, I think that they want to push towards, which fascism and communism, people don't really realize, are kind of hand in hand. They're both systems of control. But I do think we're headed towards communism, where I think that they want to control everything everybody does, what they say, what they think, where they live, how they live, what they eat. And literally every aspect of your life will be, and we're already, to me, in a portion of it is like 1984. Like we're there, man. The arbiters of truth and the people that tell you what you can and cannot say. I can take it off platforms by acknowledging things that are actually true. Like even promoting the show on TikTok, I share a clip of me and Aaron talking about Dan Schneider's foot fetish from Nickelodeon, right? And that's a whole documentary about that he was in defeat. They've exposed the stuff. It's true, and it still gets taken down because they don't want people swaying away from like, what's going on. But I think eventually everything's about to break. The fact that everybody is noticing, quote unquote, what the tiny little people, that people with the tiny little hats are doing, is proof to me that things are starting to shift. And will they be in this way of like, are they allowing this so then they can like lock down and then rip it away from everybody and then I don't know, invoke a civil war? Because if everyone starts to find this stuff out and they're like, nope.
Well, they say at the end, like the world's going to come after Israel, like the entire world. So like maybe this could be the catalyst for such a thing, right? Like
dude.
It's never in my life did I think we'd be here, right? Because you wake up and you just feel like you're in a GTA server. I've said this many times before. It's like, what is the next crazy thing? Like we're so desensitized now.
Yes.
Like what is the future going to hold for us? Because I've looked at it. There's two ways we're going to go the way society's going right now. We're either going to be those people in Wall-E, or we're going to be the shoot, I just lost it. But you understand what I'm saying. Like we're just gonna we're gonna be Ready Player One. That's the most logical one.
Oh, I know. Yeah. I actually, people like that read the book. My dad actually, as strange as it is, because like he read it and he said the movie is like a lot different, but I actually enjoyed the movie because it does show you like this poor, like broken down society. Like it kind I'm ruthless against these people, but it kind of looks like the third world in countries like India and stuff like that, where it's just like dilapidated houses and poverty everywhere, just fires, and then they just get to hook into their virtual reality, right?
Well,
And then they're like,
if you think about it, that would be the optimal. That would be the world before full Matrix, because in that movie, like they're in the pod, they're plugging in, they're probably eating dog shit food, eating the bugs, right? And then the next step is when the computers take over, and that's it. Then you have Matrix. Like all of
it
these
is
things are
interesting.
possible.
Why would they promote? Like, there's a part of me that thinks like Hollywood shows you. They have some maybe access to the Akashic records and things that could come to be, and it's if humanity doesn't figure it out in time, I believe like it's a contract signed where they're able to maybe take control of everything through our own ignorance, you know?
Well, that's what the Bible says. The devil will rule for a very short period of time, right? And the reason they have to show their hand, we said it earlier, right? Like it's to absolve yourself. Like, hey, you didn't read the fine print,
Yeah.
fella. It's the genie's curse, right? Like you got to be careful what you wish for. And that was the intention I put up north, right? It was like they asked me what I wanted, and I said, I want the truth and I want to be saved. That's a
Mhm.
pretty broad horizon that I opened myself up to.
Yeah.
Right. So now
And
I'm getting a
tension.
lot of things all at once, and it's driving me insane.
It is because once you open yourself up to that and you open your consciousness up to these ideas, and in like even fans of the show listen to it forever, like Ice's me ability is to get drunk and I'd be like ranting on about aliens or whatever, like joking around. But like when I was 17 and I opened myself up to those possibilities, and I've been awake for like whatever the term people want to call it for a long time, though I was stumbling along the way and drunk most of the time. It still was, I was still very aware, okay, the government's bad, people in power are lying to us, aliens or some sort of astral beings and people outside of reality could exist and be
Mhm.
influencing us in two ways, good and bad. And I've known this for a long time, but it wasn't until I got older that I started to really like step back and try to really figure things out and why things are being done. But it is there's another point I was gonna make, but it's just interesting because like I don't know. Are we heading towards a certain like? Are we going to awaken as like the humankind, or are we gonna go into total control for my lifetime, and then maybe somebody else will figure it out? But like, I even was saying the other day at work because I work with like a couple like kids are like they're just out of high school getting into the trades and stuff like that, and I'm like, there's no future for them, right? Like they don't even realize that there's like they're not going to be able to afford a house, that they can't, you can barely, if there's guys living like in barracks like conditions where there's like 6 dudes living in one apartment and they can't get by. And I'm like, how far are people willing to be pushed? And it is true, you mentioned earlier, like people just get so used to it and so distracted and conditioned, and where we're desensitized to all these things happening. Like it, people like, and that's why I'm like, I get some of the protests that are going on in Ottawa. I think it's hypocritical that they beat actual Canadian citizens, but they'll let people, foreign people from a diaspora of foreign people specifically, take over the streets of our country, and then it's fine and they don't do anything about it. But when people actually cared for it, but even that's what I was gonna say too, is like, think about it. The people got medicine time, right? That's the best way to phrase it. Is got something because the government was like, hey, go do this. It's for the greater good. Please go do it. Don't ask questions. And they never even like, why wouldn't you be like, okay, I'm putting this thing in my body. It could affect me forever. I want to look at the pamphlet that shows me the side effects or whatever. And nobody cared. Nobody did it. And they didn't even have anything on the pamphlet to begin with. And they're like, all those people that were gullible enough to take that shit, they should have learned by now, but there's a large majority of them that never will and won't even care.
Well, and that's just how it seems to be things are going, right? Like they, the most dangerous thing that was in Pandora's box was hope, right? Because hope is what holds you back. And a lot of the good-hearted people are just going to ride that out until they would have to see physical blood
I've
being
said that
spilled
for
in the
years.
streets before they do anything. And by that point, it's too late. They're not going to spill blood in the streets. If anything were to happen, they would more than likely retcon you for anything that you've ever said since ICQ and do minority report on everybody, and that's how they will justify it's crazy how many of these movies that we've watched are coming like verbatim.
Yeah, yeah.
And And
It's
a
so
lot of the
crazy,
people who
dude.
sit at home that watch these movies, the people who watch the most amount of movies are the people who are voting for it, which blows my mind because
I
I
know.
know a lot of these art majors and movie studio
Yeah.
people like have seen these films.
And you know what they're doing? Like they're watching these movies of like Marvel movies or whatever, right? And like I want to be that hero, like oh my, like that feeling that it invokes. Because I'm a huge like cinema buff, and I love movies. Hence why I do the show with Aaron and stuff like that, where you do like talking about horror movies. I love cinema. I always have. It was my first love. I wanted to be a director when I was a kid. Like when I was like 11 years old, I was writing scripts out and ideas for horror movies that I wanted to do at a very young age, which is so crazy when I think back on it. But like it's you won't be a hero in your own life. Some of those things, like if we're in Marvel movies, there's crazier shit happening. There was a whole island for killing, in my opinion, maybe, or unaliving, doing stuff with children, and where you pay for whatever. Like, I want hot dogs today. No, I want pizza today. Like, that actually existed. And it wasn't owned by Jeffrey Epstein. It was owned by Mossad. And that is a real thing. You think that's the only island? All this stuff that's going on. And it's
It's
like,
tied to Diddy. All of
yeah,
these rings are going to be tied to each other anyway. There's no way
Diddy
that
is
they
the
couldn't be.
tippity top, the same as Jeffrey Epstein. They're the tip of the iceberg. There is
We're
probably
not going
numerous islands, numerous places. You think that's the only one? Give me a break.
we're not getting names. We're not getting names at all. We're just getting the sacrificial lambs. We're not going to get to the true thing because that's what we were talking about earlier, right? When I mentioned like the Babylonian money magic and the sex magic and all that stuff
Oh yeah,
that's
yeah.
going on in Hollywood, which goes back to Crowley essentially, and they're doing these things, and at the end of the day, you realize that they're worshiping Baal or Moloch, and this is true, and that's where the
Me and Billy just
adrenochrome
talked about that
conspiracy
when
comes from
we're.
and everything.
You tuned into that a little bit of that episode. I got way too drunk at the end, but of the Boleskin episode or whatever, Boleskin House or whatever they called it, and it meant ball. That's why Crowley was drawn to it. So all the audio listeners, you will hear it. If you want to watch the video, you have to go to the Patreon because I drank like pretty much 26 of whiskey live, so that was fun. But like it's funny that they kind of put it out in the open and show you that stuff, and then
Because
like
it's sexy. Everyone is so
yeah,
desensitized that they're like they'll let anything go. Like people have been letting this shit go on for so long that they now know that they can just rub it in your face as a mockery and nobody's gonna give a shit.
they will put people as politicians. And the time this comes out, like I'll try to release it earlier, but like who knows what's going to happen, is like the time this comes out, I don't know who's going to be in parliament as our elected representative, even though they don't represent us. But Mark Carney hangs out with Ghislaine Maxwell. He's a frontman. I knew this was going to happen. And the craziest thing to me is, and this will always drive me insane, man, because we're both Canadian, is like Trudeau got away with murder. Literally, like his policies hurt people. They literally unalive people. The things that he did during the convoy, like beating protesters in the street, using UN style like troops that had no name tags and no identification, beating people, trampling people with war horses, Clydesdale war horses, all the things that they did. And that guy just walks away scot-free on to the next distraction. Don't worry about him and all the misery and pain that he's caused
Yep.
and the literal people that he's killed and wiped off the face of this earth. That doesn't matter. On to the next thing. Here's Mark Carney, this old man that seems nice and hangs out with Mike Myers. Meanwhile, he's with Ghislaine Maxwell, and around the open, definitely went to the island. There's no doubt in my mind that he went there and did some horrible things with children. And then that's fine. Just I'll literally check a mark box for him. Like the people that do that, they're like, yeah, I see him with the pictures of Ghislaine Maxwell. It's probably just a coincidence. I'm gonna check mark that box. I'm gonna put my consent into a known child trafficking, murdering pedophile. It's so crazy that people don't want to acknowledge this stuff, and people are insane. The world's gone crazy.
Oh, and that's the thing. People allow for it to happen. Like, oh, I could never believe Ellen would do this or so and so would do that. Like it's been proven. If the Mossad had anything to do with it, it was 100% a honeypot trap. That's what it
Yeah,
was.
yeah.
And if you look at it now, I mean, we can go down to like the extreme
They
side of things
blackmail
and go, is
people.
that why Donald Trump is supporting Israel so much that they have him in a honeypot trap?
I
Is that why they had everybody?
guarantee it. I guarantee
Right?
he's a handsy man. There's like not one, not two, but numerous photos of him with with Jeffrey Epstein, like hanging out chummy, like, having a beard, like numerous times, not more than once. That's why I think it's funny that the Trumpers too, like they all do this. The people that lick the boots of politicians, I feel like are the worst people, because like you may be on the side of truth and aware of, like, yeah, there's bad things going on, but if you're going to literally lick the boot, go down on your knees and then kiss a boot of somebody who has child blood in the bottom of those boots, like that
Well, that's
is like the worst thing to me.
well, that's why I believe being a centrist is the best place to be. Now let me explain that is um a centrist, what people think of it a centrist to be, is just somebody who just sits on the fence post and doesn't do a damn thing.
Yeah.
No, a true centrist is going to take the truth from this side and the truth from this side, an equal amount, and blend it together and then filter out the bullshit. That's what a true left or centrist is supposed to do, not be just somebody who sits on the sidelines. And we've forgotten how to do that because nobody knows how to communicate anymore. Everyone's just, again, I think we said this before, it's tribalism. Anywhere you look at it,
Yeah.
it's tribalism. My team's going to beat your team, and that's how it's going to be. And for people who are supposed to be so sophisticated, like we have regressed so much because of all of this distractions. It makes you wonder, how do we get this resolved? Because I think no matter who wins here in Canada, something's going to go down.
Yeah, it's gonna be bad, and you see this too, right? Like, if I've pointed out, a lot of people have pointed out too, is like, you wonder why, like, especially, I don't know, Canadian white people in general, they've lost their sense of tribalism. If you look at any other culture, any other ethnic group, they stick together. Black Lives Matter. You have like Hindus specifically in India, Sikhs, they stick together. All these different ethnic groups stick together, care for their own people, put their own people ahead of everybody else. But if then white people do it, it's considered racist. But everybody else is literally doing it in front of our eyes, telling us that we're racist and bigoted for wanting to care for our own people. But then when we do that, we're getting arrested. Like in the UK, if anyone like actually wants to really see what's going on, go look at France. Go look at the UK. Go look at Ireland, who I have a co-host that lives there. They're housing people that are not them, on the expense of the people that are the last hardworking people on their backs. Like, it's wrong. It's all being done on purpose, right? And I've said this numerous times. We've covered some of these controversial episodes. I've said this is being done on purpose. And eventually, if they destroy us, they're coming after everybody else. But like, this is why now you're actually giving credence towards these people that are creating these nationalist groups. Like you have Thomas Sowell and even Joel Davis from Australia. Both those dudes are from Australia. But you have others that are coming out of the woodwork now. You have the guy for Patriot Front, and that everyone thinks is feds and stuff like that. But no, they're keep going, because you see these people, they're making them folk heroes, right? You're making these people like heroes in the eyes of everybody else, because people are getting sick, right, of what's going on, especially being like, you have to do this, you're a bad person if you think this way. And I think that people are starting to finally realize, especially white people in general, are starting to be like, man, this is wrong. And it's funny because now there's black people and people of all different races that are noticing this, where even there's dudes from like India that were living for a couple generations in Britain being like, man, they're being erased, like this is not right. So you see all these tribal groups fighting, right? And no one will ever be able to gain enough power in their own. That's why nationalism and having a national identity is important, because it's like a family. We all are supposed to agree and care for each other and take care of each other. And if you have too many different ethnic groups, nationalities, people of different languages and religions and beliefs, it only causes more and more division. And eventually everything's going to splinter, and there probably will be a civil war in Canada, in the UK, even in other countries. It could happen in India, it could happen in America, it could happen in Russia, like it could happen everywhere. And that's what they
Well,
want, though.
well, that's why I keep going back to the Seven Fires prophecy, because the big bulk of that whole story um, is about like the light skin race comes and they lived in harmony for a bit, and then another light skin race came in and destroyed everything, and at the end they're supposed to reconcile. So I think, because and I did catch an episode. I Sorry, I thought I lost you there.
Yeah, I saw.
But I caught the episode where you had that that native gentleman
Adrian,
on
yeah,
there, Adrian, And
I've always wanted to do
he was
that for
saying
other
a
people that
lot of the
don't know,
same
bring together
things.
the whites and the natives, man.
Yep, and who better to learn from it than the people who know what's coming? Like
I know.
we have to admit our faults. Like we did some shitty things to them. They know what's coming. They've seen the patterns before. We have to reconcile something and have unity, because that's even what their old stories keep saying. That's what kind of happened up north when I was at Dimensions. Like all of these things just seem to converge into a knowing, and reconciliation is the answer. It's just a matter of against what. Like
Mhm.
they're because in their story, there's like an end of time thing that's going to happen,
I
that we're
know.
either going to have to come together or not, and that's pretty much the premise of the Seven
I
Fires
I
prophecy.
think that we should like it would be interesting to bring Adrian on, but I also do think maybe even to we call it greasing the poles, right? Getting things ready. It would be interesting to cover like even me and you doing it. Like Adrian would be interesting. He's down and he wants to come on and maybe do a whole talk where I feel like it might be more ideal because there'll be three of us to do like a more free for all talk. But it'd be
Mm,
interesting if you want to come back on and we can do the Seven Fires prophecy and maybe the Hopi prophecies together as one, hour and a half episode, because there is so much to both of those stories. It's kind of wild in the parallels, and like, despite what
yep.
people think, because I got like, essentially, I went viral on TikTok for like essentially talking about how I don't necessarily believe Canada is stolen land in the way that we think. I think all land is stolen and been conquered and settled upon. Like that's the way. And a lot of people get angry at me and stuff. And I'm like, you'd be surprised. I'm not actually like this. I'm not actually against anybody. I'm trying to fight to preserve my own cultural heritage and my own people in the process of hopefully helping other people. Right? Like
Mhm.
when I had what's her name on we talked about multiculturalism. I can't remember her name. MK, Mary Kate. We talked about this stuff where we were like, she's like, if we can be thriving, we can also help other people thrive together. But if we're all like being brought down to this level of communism, where you're bringing everybody to the same level of poverty, that's the true. That's what communism actually is to bring
Yep.
everybody to the same poverty level, while there's oligarchs that control over everything. That's the new world order is a communist new world order, and there's documentation that has been talked about of this whole idea for like 100 years, right? So I've always wanted to bring people together in this way, and and try to wake people up to this stuff. And that's why it's interesting to have people like you on. We've talked a lot and we agree on a lot of things, and it's just like a conversation, right? That's why I had Adrian on. I'm like, he might think I'm some sort of racist bigot, or God knows. I don't know what he saw because he followed me on TikTok, and I was open about my thoughts on stuff. And he came on, was very open, and said, "Hey, like I told him, we may not agree on everything, but we need to unify the indigenous and the whites that are both being systematically destroyed in their own way."
Well, that's what you're supposed to do, and you're doing it the right way, right? Like open-mindedness, right? Like you have to hear things from the other side, whether it be,
I agree.
from like the worst person in the world to somebody who might be misinformed, right? Like you have to have that conversation and be able to debate why, instead of just saying X title said this and then be done with it, right? Instead of actually digging into the meat of potatoes. Like I
It's
thought a
so
lot of
true.
these people were fact checkers, and then at the end of the day, like they tell you it's not when it's true. So it's like, what is the truth anymore?
Mm. Well, now they're having this idea of like it's my truth. And it's like, no, there's one truth. It might be
Yeah.
offensive, it might be hurtful towards people. People might not want to accept it, but there is not this like my truth thing. There is the truth of what's
We
actually going on,
Well, it's
right? And
because it's the crutch they can fall back on, right? It's the injury you can't see, or the thing you can't tap into to disprove it or not, right? It's like your
well,
internal
my
ether.
my truth is
Yep.
trans lives, trans rights are human rights. I hate that. Like, what does that fucking mean, man? A human
Yep.
right is like bait for water, food, shelter.
Yep.
Most people don't even get that in the world. But you think that your rights to cut off your dick, or God knows what people are doing, is your like human right, is fucking crazy to me. Like, that never happened before, like in 100 years ago. Like there's times where it happened in plays and people were doing some stuff, right? Weimar Republic, there's tons of stuff. But like when people were just like, you think some African tribe is like concerned about like, no, there's like a man is a man, a woman is a woman. We have to like figure out how to make this work the best that we can so we
Mm.
can utilize each other's skills, right? Like how lions, the female lions go out and hunt. weird, as strange as that is, and then the male lions stay at home and protect the young, right? Because maybe they have more they're fortified in their strength, right?
Well, and that's just the thing, right? Like sometimes we just let things go too far, right? Like I've always been a proponent of like I don't give a shit what you do in your back rooms, just and the whole if you want to trans your kids, go for it. Like wait till they're 18 at least to make
Yeah, yeah.
a legitimate decision. Like now, like I've seen like the crazy things, and who knows what's clickbait anymore, to be honest. But like you get these rage bait videos where it's like somebody's like, all three of my kids are trans. It's like, okay, so you told them there. Like that's the
Mm.
obvious solution of Occam's razor in that situation. The probability of that happening is zero.
It is. Well, Megan Fox's like 3 kids are, and it's like that's statistically impossible. And now for people that don't know, and it'll be interesting if he gets in, the kid is done. But like Mark Carney's kid is trans. People that they don't realize like so there's this idea, right, that anybody that seeks power and gains power has to give up a firstborn child, and it doesn't just mean death. It also means like give them up to the Baphomet type like ball satanic agenda, and you will essentially kill that child that you had spiritually and metaphysically, and then you bring about, like, that's why all these celebrities have trans kids, like Jamie Lee Curtis. There's so many of them,
Yep.
and it's because you're giving up your firstborn kid to
Yep.
the devil, to the evil, whatever it may be.
Yep.
And
All the
it's
kids end up
so
going to the
crazy.
island, unfortunately. Look at what saying. Look what
Yeah.
Terrence Howard was saying. Got to keep your man card, right? Like that guy just gets
He's an
more wrenching
interesting
every
dude,
day.
man.
He's very interesting. Like I thought for sure he was involved in the stuff, and he very
Yeah.
well might still be. Who knows, right? Because like now he's this hot celebrity that he could be a genius and or like a Looney Tune, and it almost seems like it's kind of the same thing that Russell Brand is doing
I
because
said
like
that
suddenly he
David
was like a
Quaid
power
too.
Christian
Yeah.
when the heat was getting hot. They did like a turn on the dime, right? So
I think
it
he's kind of bought out. Like, I think that, like, I like Russell Brand, always kind of had, but um I don't know. There's too many coincidences of him like giving like Illuminati symbols, and like he's definitely done some stuff, and maybe he's trying to rectify it because he, I don't know, knows what's coming or something like that. But I've always
But the
liked
problem
him.
is he knows he was at the Diddy parties. He was at the white parties
Yes,
at his
I know.
at peak debauchery, right? So like who knows? I would not be surprised if he had kids on his docket. Like most of them do, and it's an open secret.
I know. They all know, like,
We
we all got things on each other, and they're like, if you expose me, I expose you. And that's
yep.
what's and that's why it'll never come out. Like, things that are like going out are never gonna come out.
Well,
Um
that's the thing with masonry, right? Like you swear that oath, and you're technically not allowed to like rat out anybody for any reason whatsoever, like
yeah.
anything. Like you have to
We've
keep
played
secrets for
clips
the
on
rest of
that
your life.
shit, dude. Where he's like, I will take my brother's life. If you like whatever, I will behead myself, or whatever. Some of the like terminology that they use once you start to
Yep.
get initiated. I've literally played like clips of like hidden camera footage from like the Masonic rituals, and it's like wild. Like they'll like do a mock sacrifice of him like giving his life for his brothers. And that's why I
It's
like,
essentially a baptism. It's essentially a
yeah.
baptism into Baphomet. Like because I backed out once before, and then I was gonna go do it again, and I talked to them about it. I was like, I don't feel comfortable if this is true.
Mhm.
And the answer I got was just everybody has to go through it. That was the answer I got, right? And it's a because they
You
didn't
gotta
affirm
do
or
it.
anything, but I
Uh,
explained what I knew, and they just kind of were quiet about it, right? So I was like, I don't feel comfortable being half naked, kissing a Bible blindfolded with a rope around my neck. Like this is too much. It's far too much for me.
Dude, that's what they did during Skull and Bones. They would make you jerk off with like in front of a skeleton or something like that, and then confess all your secrets while you're like blind. Same thing, like Skull and Bones, Yale, right? What George Bush did and stuff. And
Well,
it is interesting.
they say it's either the 19th degree or the 33rd degree of masonry. Like they take communion out of a skull. I don't know if that's the York rite or if that's at the top, but I
They
do remember seeing that many times.
there's a fake 33rd degree, and there's a real one where they direct people towards either like they can trust you, and they need something on you, hence all the child stuff, or they're like, okay, this guy can be worth putting in positions of power, or some regard, but we're not going to bring them to the higher echelons. There's a lot of breakdown. I'm reading that. I gotta keep up my books, but I've been reading that one book, the Illuminati Cult of. Read like 3 different. Do you like that? You have OCD, like read like 3 books at once.
Oh, dude,
Right.
I constantly have books on the go. I don't remember half of the stuff I read. I gotta go back and read it again.
I'm like, oh, I'm starting to highlight everything, and I'm like, it actually is nice because I'm like, okay, I can use this for the show or whatever. When me and Jules did the second part of the protocols, where he like they're calling him the Naptillion because he was like, we're like 10 minutes to the end, and he was drinking and smoking weed, and I was like, gotta be careful of that beast, right? And like having it
Yep.
kind of affect you. But I actually really like this conversation. It's interesting. I do think
You need to get Bill Schneeblen on if you can. He's up there in age, but if you can get a hold of that guy to come on, that'd be a very interesting
Schneeblen, I
human
like
being.
his name.
I'll send you the
Schneeblen.
link. He was a guy who apparently went through all the degrees of masonry and beyond, and then kind of revealed some of the secrets.
Mm,
I I,
I
I
would
don't
love
know
that.
how legit he is, but a lot of the stuff he says is like what I found the same things in some of the books I've read. So like,
I'm
who
all
knows?
open to conversations, man. I had that. I'm sorry, but I always bring you up. What was it? But the chick that had on that thinks that everybody's trans, and everyone's
April.
inverted. No, that was somebody else. And it was just like it was a fun conversation. A lot of people were like, a little wild. I don't know if I believe that, but I'm like, it's still like I'll have an open conversation with anybody, even if I consider them kind of batshit crazy in some extent. I'm not saying that she is at all. But I'm saying that in general, like it's interesting. It's like coast to coast radio for people
Yeah.
that don't know what that is. It's like it's just
Once you
fun to
get
talk
cracked,
with.
you won't deny anything anymore. You'll be on the same page as everybody else, man. Just get cracked open, and your show will change. Like
Mm. It's just
there's
about
no
having
way that.
open conversations, right?
Yep, 100%.
This is a show that I started just getting drunk with me and my friends talking about reptilians. But like, I hope everyone enjoyed this show. We're gonna bring it to a close. Like, I feel like if we really want, we could at some point we'll do like a live stream or something like that. But we could talk for hours. I know we could, and just like puzzle about some of this stuff that is going on.
It's
But I
coming, man.
appreciate.
It's all real. We'll all wake up
Yeah.
soon enough.
I appreciate you coming on. That was a lot of fun. And for all the fans out there, obviously make sure to subscribe and support Strange Brew Podcast. All the links should be in the link tree. Follow us on Instagram is where we're most active. I was on TikTok until I took it down. We're on X at Strange Brewcast. All that good stuff. Support the Patreon. We have people join the Patreon now. Buy merch. We're gonna have a bunch of new designs. All that good stuff. And I'm really excited. We'll definitely once I'm settled in with the kid and I can have time, we'll definitely throw something together where maybe we can have some fun with this stuff, and you can maybe meet Billy or like Aaron, and we can just do like a fun little rant episode.
You take your time and take care of that baby. You got a lot of work cut out for you, my
I
friend.
know it's gonna be wild. I'm excited, and yeah, man, I appreciate this. Was just a fun, open conversation. I like even last time when you came on, it was just fun. We are just kind of hanging out. I had a couple beers. You smoked up a couple joints. It was just like let's hang out and let's just talk about this weird stuff that's going on in the world.
Welcome to life.
Yeah, it's so true. It's only gonna get stranger from here.